Can you believe it, Brendo?
I might. I don't know what it is I'm believing.
We haven't recorded a podcast this whole decade.
What sort of slack entertainers are we? Not even one podcast. Oh, I see what you did there. Okay.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem. G'day and welcome to episode 89 of the Gaming Lovers Podcast. I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo. 2020 off to an interesting start. We're having quite the year so far.
Yeah, it's been memorable, definitely. We are going to keep this episode a little shorter than usual, mostly because our house is full of smoke. If you haven't heard the news, Australia is burning, unfortunately, and we live in Victoria. We've got quite a few bushfires that thankfully aren't like immediately close to our house, but are getting a little bit closer. But mostly the smoke is what's really doing the damage at the moment for us. So lots of fun for us asthmatics especially.
Yes, we are also video gamers. We are also gaming lovers, but we are also both asthmatics. A wonderful combination for your hosts of this podcast. Yes, our house smells very smoky.
Yes.
And we intend on retreating to somewhere with a bit more filtered air, like perhaps a shopping centre or something later. Mm-hmm. But with fires of this magnitude, fundraising efforts are sprouting up everywhere, online, on Facebook, Twitter, wherever. And the good thing is there are many different ways that video game communities have been raising money for not only general disasters around the world, but even for these Australian bushfires.
Yes. We're going to get into some incredible and unique fundraising efforts from the gaming community in this episode of the Gaming Lovers Podcast. But before we get there, it wouldn't be, us unless we did Gaming Gold.
Gosh. All the air in here.
Word.
Oh, it's terrible.
Okay.
Well,
I believe you've had at least a fair chunk of gaming this week, so I'll let you go first.
I have had a fair chunk of gaming. Primarily, Jedi Fallen Order is definitely my primary gaming goal at the moment. This game I am greatly enjoying, and I can't remember many games in the past few years that I've deliberately played on a higher difficulty first time through. Maybe later on, but I have almost always been a baseline, medium, normal difficulty. It's the way the designers balanced the game. That is how I'll experience it for the first time. I've started Fallen Order on Jedi Knight difficulty, and I have had a really good time. Minor frustrations, yes, but in true sort of Dark Souls gameplay style, if I die, it's usually because I made a mistake, not because the enemies are cheap.
Yeah, whereas if I die, it's because I fell down a hole.
I've done plenty of that too. Jedi Fallen Order does feel like an amalgamation of so many different franchises. It gives me memories of playing Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. It gives me memories of playing a Dark Souls style game. Uncharted, Tomb Raider, the branching level skill trees that are in so many different RPGs are present. And interestingly enough, there have been moments where this game has reminded me of Crash Bandicoot. There has been one moment in my recent session, I won't give away any real specifics, but there's these sort of pod things that get scared when you get close. They retract in the ground, and if you step on them, you'll be rocketed up quite high in the air, which will usually get you to the next area you're going to. Now, there's one particular sequence in this game where you bounce off one of those onto another one, and I'm like, this is very Sonic the Hedgehog with spring pads. This is very Sonic the Hedgehog. So any game that can remind me of my little blue buddy, Mr. Sonic T. Hedgehog, that's a good thing. Star Wars and bouncing around through a level like you are going at the speed of sound. That's 2 thumbs up.
So how far along do you think you are now?
It's hard to know. I think, based off the dialogue, when I unlocked my last ability, throughout the game you do get reconnected to the Force which is the usual gameplay mechanic of why a Jedi has no powers at the start of a game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I have got the last ability, and I would estimate that means I must be more than halfway through the game, right? Right?
Possibly.
Maybe?
I don't trust games anymore when you feel like you're near the end game.
There is a bit of backtracking involved in this game. You'll go to one planet, then you'll go to the second, and then you'll go to the third. You'll get a new ability. You go back to the second for a story point. You go back to the third for another story point. You sort of bounce around a little bit. I have pretty much done most of 4 entire planets, so that's not really spoiler specific, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a great time, and I'm starting to feel quite powerful. Let me just say, any normal enemy, no matter how tough they are, with an upgraded force push, all you've got to do is sucker them towards a cliff edge and give them a big whoa, a little bit of push, and suddenly they fall off the edge and die, and you get the experience points with no mess, no fuss. You don't even have to clean up the corpse. That's someone else's job. But for actual bosses themselves, slow is the way to go.
Good to know.
Good to know. Slow is the way to go. Don't you know?
I'm glad that you're having fun with that. For me, I haven't actually had a chance to play any Jedi Fallen Order, which I'm really bummed about because I wanted to. You've had plenty of time.
Oh, what sort of video game enthusiast are you? It's like there's been something more important, like family to hang out with or something.
We have had family over from South Africa, and this week took them to play some VR at Zero Latency. There was some new kind of challenges added recently to the roster. Some PvP, team versus team kind of based playing. So we signed up thinking, might be just kind of feel like a little bit like glorified laser tag.
Yes.
But my goodness, it was so much fun.
It was very fun, and I think the most exhausting activity we've ever done at Zero Latency.
Oh my word, yes.
For those not in the loop, Zero Latency VR is worldwide now.
Yep.
We have one relatively close to our house, which wasn't there originally, which is quite nice. It is becoming one of our favourite group activities to do with new people who haven't experienced it, because we just love seeing people in awe about the fact that they can move around an open space with a VR headset on and not have wires attached to anything. It's amazing. Look at this. It's incredible. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid of heights. But yeah, we expected that after doing a sci-fi campaign, zombie campaigns, puzzle games in this VR experience, we thought the team versus team, we did 3-on-3. We thought it would be a not as enjoyable experience because there wouldn't be the variety of maps. There wouldn't be the variety of experiences that a campaign, cooperatively, can throw at you. But, my goodness me, was I ever wrong with that assessment?
Well, the gaming lovers were split up. We were all there, I guess, with our partners, so everyone was separated so that they had to fight against their significant other. And I had Mr. Steve, the good brother, on my team.
That was your first mistake?
Excuse me, he had previous experience. Everybody else there were rookies. And my sister Sarah from South Africa. You had your other brother-in-law, Keegan, who's from South Africa, who doesn't even play video games, let alone ever tried virtual reality. So I felt like that was your biggest handicap. And then Lady Mel, we'll just attach Lady to everyone.
It's so much easier just to attach Lady to people.
She was on your team too. And boy, howdy, did she enjoy shooting the good brother, Mr. Steve.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We had individual team voice chat, so I could only hear my team. You could only hear your team. We were essentially the team captains, for lack of a better term. And yes, Mel is quite sweet, quite pleasant, quite friendly. But when she killed her husband in virtual reality, the dark side took over for a short few moments. Yes.
When she gets into a certain headspace, when she gets a little silly, she does a complete 180. It's so funny. Sometimes we love poking that out of her on occasion.
Now, what was difficult was we were trying to balance the teams as closely as we could. Skill-wise, it's hard when not everyone has tried it. You've got some who've tried VR before, some who have not. Trying to balance these teams in a competitive sense. And overall, I think we did a pretty darn good job of balancing based off how tight the scores were in all 3 rounds that we did of Soul Raiders.
So unbelievably close. Like, we were looking at the stats at the end, and I think it was it the second round or maybe it was the first?
Well, first round, it was more than just a straight-up shooting each other for kills. There was a giant ball in the middle of the arena that you had to shoot a laser beam at to move to your side.
Try to get it in the goal.
If you get it to the end, you get a point. That's the objective marker. If the points are tied, it's based off how many kills your team had. The lead changed hands about 6 times in that, 5-10 minute game. And my goodness me, the blue team, of which you were the captain of, making a very last-second attack millimeters from the goal as time expired.
We would have won too if we'd had like one more second in game. We would have won. Oh, it was just so infuriating. And I remember, I think I was very proud of that first round because my poor teammates got wiped out just as I was starting to respawn. And like all 3 of Team Orange were near my base. And I came out guns blazing and pop, pop, pop. Managed to get rid of all 3 of you very quickly and then stop the ball suddenly from going in the goal and push it back. And the lady who was, I guess, running it that works there at Zero Latency was kind of commentating a little bit, almost like a sports commentator, and she freaked out. She's like, Jem, that's amazing! And boy, that felt really good.
I thought you were amazing too, and even though you were my rival at the time.
I just wish you could capture like in-game footage because I felt like, I want to brag about this forever.
And then the second round, we were in sort of like a maze with doors you could open by shooting them. Little canisters that you had to focus your laser beam on to score a point.
Yes.
And if you have opposing lasers on, nobody's getting that point. It's just sort of stuck in no man's land until somebody bites the bullet. And again, tied, your team leading on kills until about 5 seconds to go.
Yes.
Orange team scored another canister.
Yep.
Stealing the victory in the last few seconds yet again.
So close. It was insane. Which was nice though. I liked that we were like very equal as far as skill and abilities. So it made for fun, engaging games.
Yeah, even if you watch a sports game, if your team loses but it's very close, it's still an exciting game to watch, even though it can be a little heartbreaking.
Yes.
It's much more interesting than watching a game where you win by like 100 points.
Yes.
So I did feel for your team coming so close to victory twice. And then the third round where we had, again, another little ball thing that we had to charge across to a point of victory.
Yep.
Both teams, even scores. Both teams, even kills. At the very last second, nobody got a last second kill. It was perfectly even. The round was a draw.
Yep.
So you can't get closer than that. It was incredible. That map had a little sniper tower that somebody was constantly shooting me from.
Oh, excuse me. It was more the other way around. I went up there to try to get rid of you.
Very fun. Highly recommended. I legitimately didn't think that playing the virtual reality experience team against team would be as fun as it was.
Yeah. Totally. I think I agree with that. And it was probably one of the most fun sessions we've had at VR. I think it does help having a good crew of friends that enjoy it and are willing to kind of talk smack and just have fun together. Mm-hmm. But as far as just having different challenges and you're only in each level for a short time, so if you start feeling a bit exhausted from one, you've got a moment to take a breather and then move on to the next. And yeah, I tell you what, like, even though, like, you're just pacing back and forth in a small room with it has air conditioners blasting. When we first walked in there, it was cold. By the end of it, I'm dying. I'm like, where's the air conditioners? Come on.
Work up a sweat.
Yes.
That's for sure.
It was disgusting.
Seriously, the gaming lovers definitely give their stamp of approval to Zero Latency VR. Yeah. Not a paid advertisement or anything. This is just us saying that we absolutely love doing it.
Yep.
And
so if you're going, send us an invite. We'll come and join you.
And if you're overseas, you might have to pay for airfares as well. But that's don't worry about those details.
We'll be back right after this with all the incredible fundraising efforts that gamers have done over the years.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side, and you could be featured in the next podcast.
As we mentioned at the beginning of this episode of the Gaming Lovers Podcast, our house is very smoky thanks to the bushfires that are raging in Australia at the moment. And it's been pretty amazing to just see the support that's come in from all over the world actually now, that it's definitely grabbed people's attention.
Yeah, we've had international firefighters arriving to help combat the blazes. 12 million acres is already gone.
Yeah.
And continues to be burnt. That's the size of Vermont and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
In the US combined. Yeah, and our closest neighbours, New Zealand, over 1,000 miles away, are getting the smoke from these fires.
Yes.
So it's not just us in our house. New Zealand is getting them as well.
Yeah, sorry, Kiwis. And there's been some pretty incredible efforts, both local and overseas, as far as fundraising for these. We'll tell you more about the efforts that specifically help the bushfires a little bit later on. But first we wanted to go through some other really unique and amazing groups of gamers that put together some fundraisers for great causes. Ones that we've talked about before on the Gaming Lovers Podcast, like Games Done Quick. And some other ones that, as we did some digging, we discovered and we're like, wow, these people are so cool. I wish I'd found out about them earlier.
Yeah, that's what's fun about fundraising, is that we have things every year like Movember,
yes,
where people grow disgustingly bad mustaches. Some of us are gifted with the ability to grow lip hair, some not so much. But, I mean, even as a kid, we used to have the MS Readathon.
Yep.
At primary school.
For multiple sclerosis.
That's right. And you would read books, and for some children, I didn't mind it, but for some children, that was like pulling teeth. Do I have to read a book? Yes, we'll give this donation of $10 to the...
For each book that you read.
And they're like, okay.
And if you were sponsoring me, you were giving me lots of money.
Giving you lots of money?
Well...
I think that's embezzlement. I don't think that's quite how it works.
But you were sponsoring me. I meant that you would be paying up a lot for the fund because I read lots. That was my point. Not as much as Lady Mel, though. She can read faster than me.
Yeah, so I love how creative people get when it comes to fundraising efforts. Usually you're doing an effort, a strenuous exercise, or some sort of almost punishment to make people want to shell out more money to support whatever cause you are trying to fight for.
Yeah.
And the video game community is no different. Like you said, we have so many different marathons, week-long events raising money for disasters, for cancer prevention, for all sorts of things. And one of the earlier ones that came along before the days of Twitch, have you ever heard of Desert Bus for Hope?
I hadn't until we were doing this. But the more I read about them, the more I'm like, this is amazing and I want to be on that bus.
Now, for those not in the Desert Bus loop, you have been missing out on one of the greatest video games of all time, I'm sure. Penn and Teller, a couple of magicians that have made their name on television shows, made a fake sort of trick games that were all sort of there to con you in some way, shape or form. And one of those is called Desert Bus, where you get the thrill of driving your bus from Tucson, Arizona to Las Vegas, Nevada in real time with a maximum speed of 45 miles an hour, which is about 72 Ks. If you know your geography, you will know that's going to take you about 8 hours of real time. And if your bus goes off the road at any point in that 8 hours, you get towed back to the start in real time.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Desert Bus for Hope, I mean, there's no passengers on this bus. There doesn't seem to be any real point in enjoying this game. But this game was designed to be made as an annoyance, for starters, and secondly, to prove that video games are not all violent. Now, personally, I hear that description. It would make my blood boil.
I'm like, that's the kind of game that would make me violent. Oh, dear. That's pretty funny, though. That's such a troll. That's like the kind of game that you expect developers to make and release around April Fools.
There are no pausing this game either. It's 8 hours real time. You need a toilet break. You better have brought a bottle along. It is an endurance grind for sure, even if you're trying to play by yourself. In a team-based effort, it's still a grind. Absolutely. And Desert Bus for Hope started the idea that they would raise money using this game. Now, they're also using some little bit of mathematical economics when it comes to calculating how much money they make. If you want them to play this game for 1 hour, it only costs you $1 to donate. But for every hour after that, it increases by 7% inclusive, which means when they raise as much money as they have, this past year, for example, they played for over 160 hours straight of Desert Bus.
Oh, and people watched it too.
And people watched it. Now, every year they've been doing this for about 8 or 9 years from memory. And ever since the first stream, they've raised more than $5 million for the children's hospital charity Child's Play, playing a frustrating, stupid, pixely art desert bus simulator. But they throw in challenges and stretch goals where people have to, stack as many hats on the person who's driving the bus as possible. The bus constantly drifts as well, so you have to be attentive at all times in case it goes off the road. So,
and then you get towed.
Like we said, sometimes you have to do arduous, punishing things to raise money. And props, nice work, lifetime totals, I believe, is just under or maybe even just over 6 million at the moment.
That's awesome. Well done, Desert Bus for Hope.
Very cool.
See, it only takes a simple idea to raise funds. And one that we've mentioned several times on this podcast is Games Done Quick. Speed run of games. Well, probably one of Brendo's favourite things just to watch whenever.
I've always liked Games Done Quick for years, but I only selected really 1 or 2 to watch each year. When I was KO'd a month ago with a horrible bout of gastro and had to take a week to recover, I watched a lot of GDQ and I thought I could sit and watch this for hours. This is great.
And you do.
And I do, yes.
Now, that launched a decade ago in 2010. They were inspired by Desert Bus for Hope with the idea that invited participants to speedrun numerous games over the course of the event, usually about 5 or 6 days. And they would have commentary over the course of the games. They would have comments come in from people giving donations, sometimes requesting certain things from the streamers as well. And it's very entertaining. And I think there's something for everyone. Whatever your favourite game is, guaranteed they've done it.
Yeah, and they do 2 full-size events each year. Awesome Games Done Quick, Summer Games Done Quick. I always forget which one's which because in the southern hemisphere where we are, summer's the wrong time of year compared to everyone else. So even though it's our summer, when this podcast drops within 2 hours of this podcast going live, Awesome Games Done Quick 2020 will begin. Almost a full week of speedruns, glitch exhibitions.
Yes.
That would be a glitch exhibit. Would you go see that at the museum? I would, personally. You might fall through the floor. But they have also done, smaller events targeting specific things. Like in 2011 with the Tohoku earthquake in Japan, they raised a slight bit of money. Not as much as their usual full events, but it was like a spontaneous thing for the earthquake and tsunami relief efforts.
Yep.
So it's for good causes. They support the Prevent Cancer Foundation in its winter events and Doctors Without Borders in their summer events. And in total, they have raised over $19 million US.
That's so awesome. And I love all of those charities that they support too. So I think that's a big part. You know, not only do you want to get some entertainment out of these kind of fundraising events, which we definitely do from Games Done Quick, but you want to believe in the cause that they're giving to, because sometimes there are some charities that have had a little bit of a shadow overcast that you're not entirely sure where all those funds are going to, if they're, you know, siphoning off a little bit, or if, you know, there are unfortunately some scam artists out there too. So you have to be really careful about who you choose to support and donate to. But it's great to see, like, you know, Doctors Without Borders do such incredible work. So I'm like, always happy to support that.
Médecins Sans Frontières. That's the actual fancy term.
Oh.
How nice. Games Done Quick have incentive and stretch goals where if they get to a certain amount of donations within a certain amount of time, you know, highest donation gets to choose which character is played in whatever game. I love that sort of thing. And personally, I've had a great amount of enjoyment watching the races, the head-to-head speedrun races between two of the best in the world. But it's not all just fun and games when it comes to Games Done Quick, because, like we said, sometimes you have to do something punishing, something arduous.
Yes.
And just about every event, there is a block of games called the Awful Games Done Quick, where the worst of the worst games get speedran. Superman 64, E.T. from the Atari 2600. There is a bunch of shockers, and sometimes they are the most entertaining runs of the entire week.
Absolutely. I think my favorite is just seeing how they break all my favorite games.
Oh, yes.
Seeing them like force different characters to go through walls and fall through levels so that they suddenly appear somewhere else completely later in the game.
Skipping 6 hours of gameplay.
It's just like, how? And I'm like, part of me, especially when they do that to like Knights of the Old Republic, I'm like, why would you want to skip all this amazing content?
Yes, you can get the credits rolling in like 3 hours, but really,
why would you want to?
if it wasn't for fundraising efforts, I would be very upset at that.
Exactly. But it is amusing to see all the different ways that people approach these games and the communities that I guess collectively help and reveal to each other, if you do this, you can then cut out this part of the game or get past this faster, that have, you know, compounded and created these epic speedruns that we see today.
Mm-hmm. Another effort that is going out year after year is called Extra Life, where people play games to help heal kids. And, for example, this 2020 Extra Life Game Day is going to be November 7th. And people, doesn't matter if they're doing Dungeons and Dragons or video games, they are raising money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals across North America.
Nice. A lot of these so far have been very US-based.
Mm-hmm.
So Extra Life started back in 2008. So they're 12 years old now?
Mm-hmm.
Man. They have raised over $50 million since it started.
That's right.
50 million!
And people can sign up on their website, pledge whatever they're pledging, to play their games from home or online any day that works for them. So it really is very flexible for people joining it. Things like Games Done Quick, you have to submit your runs. They have to approve you to go on their schedule.
Yep.
You fit in the slot they want you to be in. For something like this, anybody can participate, anybody can help out, and anybody can raise money for sick kids, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I like that it feels a little more accessible. I mean, with Games Done Quick, anyone can obviously support it and help donate, but not everyone necessarily is going to be able to contribute a speed run, because they usually try to choose those that are the top in the field and have usually at least done one or two of them before.
Now, the next one, while not a fundraiser per se, has still made an incredible amount of money for charities around the world. We are talking more than $150 million
Wow.
across 50 different charities in the Humble Bundle initiative. Now, I have invested money in Humble Bundle purely for selfish reasons, not actually to help charities, and I apologise for my insidious means, but Humble Bundle is basically a bundle of games for a set price. You have different levels. You can pay a small amount of money, you can pay whatever you want, or you can pay somewhere in the middle of the average, and you'll get different tiers, different amounts of games. Can you guess which franchise I may have bought a Humble Bundle of?
Basing off your preferences, Sonic the Hedgehog is my first guess.
You're probably correct. I may have already owned pretty much all the games that are on it, but I now have access to them all on Steam. So that's worth supporting charities for. Supporting charities. You can't get upset with me. So they have bundles that you can buy. There's also monthly subscriptions, and 10% of all purchases on that website go to charities, whether it be the American Red Cross, Water Aid, lots of different things, Child's Play, Action Against Hunger, so many different charities. Yeah. And because these bundles are such good value, I mean, you look at when a new Humble Bundle comes out and you're like, what? Legitimately, I can get all this for like $10? It's value for money for those buying the games, and because they sell so many of them, even just that 10% that's going to charity makes a big difference in the world's needs. And the rest of the money gets split amongst the developers, and that's fine. But the charity side of things, very important. Very cool.
That's pretty awesome too. I mean, everyone's a little bit different about what motivates them to give towards a charity or, a disaster relief type thing. I'd say most people are happy to give, but even more so when you know that there's mutual benefits.
Yes.
Now, there's always one-off kind of fundraiser events that happen, one of which was in May 2018. To support the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, Blizzard Entertainment offered a limited-time character customization skin for Overwatch for the character of Mercy that reflected the pink colours of breast cancer awareness, and all the revenue of the sales of that specific skin went to the foundation. By the end of the sale, Blizzard had raised over $12.7 million US. That was pretty phenomenal. I think one of the largest single donations that the foundation had received at that time.
From a video game skin on sale.
Yes.
I'm normally very upset about microtransactions, even if they are simply cosmetic changes. But in this example, I'll make an exception. Good work, Blizzard. We haven't said that many times in the past few months. Good work, Blizzard. But
maybe do more of that. I think a lot of video game developing companies, especially the bigwigs, could benefit from doing a little more of that sort of stuff to help with their PR a little bit. This may be a goal for 2020, guys. New Year's resolution.
I agree. So there have been so many great initiatives and regular yearly events that help raise money for all different types of things. But at the moment, like we said, our home country is on fire and likely will be for literally months.
Yeah.
The size of these bushfires is immense, and there are multiple deaths. I mean, millions of animals apparently have been killed by these fires. Hundreds of homes lost. There's going to be a lot of effort to get Australia back on its feet after something of this magnitude. And we have discovered in our research that there are locally ran video game fundraising events to support things just like this.
That's right. 2 esport gamers from Australia kind of got together to create Gamer Aid Australia. Aiden A.K. Hiko and Joshua Swifty Swift.
Swifty Swift.
Swifty Swift. They wanted to help raise money of the bushfires, so they started a campaign back in November last year when the fires started.
Yes.
They put together the GoFundMe pages, and basically they said that they'd seen so many charity initiatives around the world that focus on relevant issues happening in their country. They saw this as an opportunity to help their fellow Aussies and show the country that they were more than just kids behind computer screens, that they wanted to game with a cause.
Yeah. I mean, it's frequently accepted socially that, footballers raising money for this charity and all these sort of athletes and celebrity figures, but video gamers can do it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, with the Australian Open that we have at the beginning of every year, a lot of tennis players have been pledging their winnings to this cause as well, which has just been so amazing. Singer Pink has donated, I think, like $500,000 towards the relief effort, which is so incredible. Like, it's just really wonderful and heartwarming to hear all these different people coming together. But we wanted to just, I guess, shed a spotlight on these guys who... when they did their first campaign in November, they wanted to reach $10,000.
$10,000.
Yep, nice, simple, achievable, and they nearly doubled it in that month. So they've started a second campaign to raise $20,000, and it's sitting at about $6,000 at the moment, at the point of this podcast being recorded. If you want to help, you can go to GamerAid, GamerAid.com.au to donate. This effort, I believe, is going directly to help the firefighters. It's going to the Rural Disaster Fund. The first one was going towards the Salvos to help them with their relief effort.
Salvation Army Disaster Relief.
And they do a lot of great work as well. So both funds, I still believe, are active at the moment. If you're looking up GamerAid on GoFundMe, you can just choose to whoever you want to support, I guess. So if you want it to go directly to the firefighters, or if you want it to go towards the Salvation Army Disaster Relief, you can support those there at GamerAid.com.au. I think my favourite quote, though, that I've loved from these guys is just saying that online we have many homes. Offline we have just the one, and we got to look after it. So, yeah. It's kind of awesome to see, nationally, Aussies, when we go through hard times, we're kind of known for rallying together and helping each other out.
Yep.
And it's with this online community now, it's just so wonderful to see, online, these communities coming together to support friends from overseas. So we're very grateful for that too.
Very cool.
Yes. So again, if you would like to help, GamerAid.com.au. There's obviously so many other ways you can support with, like the Australian Red Cross, obviously through the Salvation Army here in Australia. I'm sure if you Googled, there's plenty of different ways. Just be careful, obviously, to not donate through scam artists.
Yeah, very, very tricky to know sometimes where that money's going. But,
absolutely. You want to make sure that it's going to the people you want to help and not some middleman. That's always been my goal in supporting for different causes throughout the years. So yeah, hopefully the more help we get, the faster we can put these fires out, and also help save a lot of wildlife that is trying to escape, help relocate people that have lost their homes. There's so many different areas that need covering and support, so thoughts and prayers as well, always appreciated.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo and Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
Now that we've done all the heavy, more serious stuff, which is a little bit different for us.
Oh, we have had a couple of episodes where we have tackled more serious topics, but we still keep the format, and it is the end of the episode, and therefore we must talk about our gaming goals for the next 7 days. What do you intend on enjoying in the video game world?
I want to say Jedi Fallen Order. I'm hoping things will slow down a little bit. Also, it depends on how quickly our house is not smoky. Part of the reason that so much smoke has gotten into our house recently is because a giant glass door that we have at the back door of our house basically got smashed by a slingshot. Thanks, teenagers.
Vandalism.
So it's just let in all this smoke. And it's making it hard to kind of be in our house at the moment. So hopefully that will clear and we get that fixed really, really quickly. And then I can focus on games. But yes, my gaming goals haven't really changed much. I want to play Stardew Valley. I want to play Jedi Fallen Order. I want to play The Outer Worlds. Those are all things that are just like hovering over me. So yes. What about you?
What are you going to do this week? This is where we set actual goals, not just what I would like to do.
Well, you help me, because you're further along with Jedi Fallen Order. So what is a realistic goal you think that I could achieve in that game this week?
What planet have you gotten up to? Did you finish the one on the cliff edges?
Yes.
Okay, well then try to get through at least up until the next tomb, which is usually what's at the end of each planet.
We get another power? Okay.
So that I think is a realistic, achievable goal,
Okay.
but without setting it too lofty.
Lock it in, Brendo.
Lock it in.
What about you?
I am going to be enjoying Jedi Fallen Order. My portable gaming has been a bit on and off recently, but I will be enjoying a bit of Ys, Memories of Celceta, and I'm towards the very end of that game. So it might be achievable. It depends on how many side quests I do, because it's a game I am enjoying and kind of don't want to rush. So that's always nice when you're enjoying a game, you don't want it to end.
Yes.
Jedi Fallen Order is going to be my primary goal for sure. I would like to see what lies beyond the end of the 4th planet that I'm on, because I've revisited the others a couple of times. I want to see what's next. The story's actually really good, so that helps, and the exploration side of things I really like. So I can't wait to see what is next with Jedi Fallen Order. It is going to get all of my attention. I'm talking at least 5, 6, 7 hours in this game this week. Would be ideal. But you know what? I'm going to put it out there. Since we have talked about fundraising efforts and video games, if you have a challenge for either of us, but I haven't volunteered my wife. If you have a video game challenge for me, you can join in if you'd like, and you have a set amount of dollar value that you think it is worth to a fundraising effort, for this week, I'll make it an open challenge. As long as it's a fair challenge.
Overcooked too.
As long,
Make him play for 24 hours, people.
As long as it's a fair challenge, I am willing to put it out there. If you think you have a challenge that is worth money for a good cause, I will sacrifice my sanity and do almost anything that was within my reach.
All right.
Am I foolish?
No, because I'm about to say something even more stupid.
I love you.
And I will step up. I think people really loved hearing me play a horror game. And I'm willing to put up with nightmares for a little while to help the bushfire efforts. I think that's the main thing that I would love to raise money for at the moment, obviously, because it's right on our back door.
How about we extend this to the end of January?
Oh, okay.
Any gaming challenges that come our way on our social media pages, we will consider, as long as it's achievable.
Yes.
And if you have one, at Brendo and Jem on Twitter, The Gaming Lovers on Facebook, the 2 primary ways to get a hold of us. Gaming challenges for a good cause. You've got to pay the money, though.
Yes.
And we promise you we have integrity.
We do.
And we'll pass it along.
We have a donate button on our website at thegaminglovers.com. So any funds that come through for that, obviously you can leave comments when you donate. If you say where you want it to go, what it's specifically for, we can make sure that it goes to any local charities that are helping bushfire efforts, or if you have somewhere else that you'd prefer that it go, either verify that you have donated to that cause by sending us proof on social media of the sort, and we will add it and count it towards this effort this month of challenges. How about that?
We're no strangers to having open suggestions in this podcast. If you have anything you want to hear us talk about, any game that we haven't played yet, feel free to suggest it. But for this month, for the month of January 2020, it is an open challenge for fundraising efforts in the video game world. The Gaming Lovers stepping up to the cause. Can I make a fake Twitter account to challenge you
have to
do
pay
stuff?
You have to pay real money. Real, and it
might be
needs to
worth
be
it.
lots of money to make me play really scary games. Let me just put that out there right now. If I'm going to have nightmares for a considerable amount of time, let me just say Heavy Rain still gives me nightmares.
Okay.
So that's what we're dealing with.
So the donation has to cover the relief efforts for the bushfire and Jem's psychiatric bills and her new medication. Okay, we understand.
I don't mind. I want it to be worth it. That's the challenge. Now, Brendo, on the other hand, he'll play most anything for anything.
I'm a cheap date.
In all seriousness, though, we will, any challenges and offers that come our way, we will consider and we'll let you know. So I think if I stream something scary, then that could be my first challenge. So start thinking of games that you would like to hear me freak out at, which won't be hard.
I have so many, but I don't want to be the one leading the conversation. Thank you, everybody. Yes, thank you for the support worldwide for our home country in this trialing time. Is that a thing? It's not a thing. Trying,
not trialing. It is a trial, but it is a trying time.
Okay.
Yes.
I blame the smoke, lack of oxygen. And apparently the air quality in the city of Melbourne is equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Lovely.
So 2 thumbs up. Where's my gas mask?
I really need one.
We love you all. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Gaming Lovers podcast.
Yes, and hopefully with some challenges that have come in from you, either at our Facebook or Twitter account or through thegaminglovers.com.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely week, and chowski to you.
Bye, Nara.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.